Good afternoon and good evening, guys. My name is Fermi, and thank you for coming to my channel. Today, I wanted to just talk about some of the foundations of health, especially today's topic has to do with a specific type of supplementation that most people aren't aware of. That is one of the most, it's a pinnacle to a better life, right? So, uh, that supplementation is magnesium, right? Magnesium is a naturally occurring mineral. You can find the ocean. You can find it in the chlorophyll, which is like the heart of the plant, the green part, right? You can find it in some organ meats. You can find it in some just regular like lean meat. Um, Magnesium is like pretty much everywhere, but the quantity and the quality of magnesium has gone down over the years. It's still high in some spring waters around the country and around the world, right? Like Evian has a high amount of magnesium in it. Steiner has also like, and there's countless other type of companies with a good amount of magnesium in it. But the problem is, right now, as a culture, as a society, we are more calcium dominant. And being calcium dominant has led us into a array of just diseases, basically like atherosclerosis. We have gone with people are getting kidney stones, heart attacks, strokes. All these are blood vessel ridden diseases that never really did exist back in the day. And the reason why they do exist now is because our culture is more predominantly calcium driven, right? For a lot of different reasons, not because of the fact that we consume calcium, is the fact that our society is driven by just carbohydrates. Uh, our world, right? We overconsume, right? In America, we have a lot. We have a lot, and we're blessed with a lot. And many of us, we face first world issues, right? Like, oh, what nails should I get today, right? While other countries, where they could die from infectious diseases and stuff, but they do not come close with having heart disease, right? Because they what they eat is completely natural. They're not eating ultra processed food, right? So like I'm from Nigeria, and I it's kind of funny because Nigeria didn't really have a problem with like ultra processed food till recently, where these like corporations such as McDonald's, Burger King, Mr. Biggs start coming to to Nigeria. So this started affecting us, right? And then people start getting strokes, heart diseases, just heart attacks, and you're like, oh wow, you can see how fast it happens, right? You can see how quick it develops into a problem. Uh, the magnesium itself is a calcium antagonizer, right? Antagonist, right? So it goes against calcium. It does the opposite of what calcium does, right? It helps make the blood vessel more fluid, right? It decreases blood pressure. It increases longevity, increases the strength of your body. Most people don't consume as much magnesium as they need, but they consume more calcium, right? So it creates an issue with our body, like vitamin D, right? Vitamin D is an important supplement where everyone starts to take, like after COVID, especially people started taking vitamin D, and the problem is, taking more vitamin D leads to increased calcium in your system. But the problem is, the good part is, if you add vitamin K2, it helps, right? It takes that calcium and puts it in the bone matrix, right? But vitamin D cannot work perfectly, cannot work well, and that vitamin K2 cannot work well without adequate magnesium. Without adequate magnesium in your system at that time, vitamin D will stall, and it will actually have more of an adverse effect, which is not good, right? You might increase calcium in your whole body in places where your calcium should not be, right? But it can go because can go everywhere. So magnesium receptors are almost everywhere, just like vitamin D receptors. That's why they're so important together, right? Consumption of them is vital. But what's the point of it being what's the point of it being a calcium antagonist, right? Magnesium was, back in the day, research shows that magnesium was wholesome. It was everywhere, right? We can consume it. We consumed it in high amounts, and we drained it in high amounts. The reason why we drained it in high amounts is because magnesium is needed for about 930 enzymatic functions in our system. There is this thing going around, it's only about 300. That's the professor that created that, that scientist that created that 300 didn't understand how far into it. And then more work started showing that it's actually more close to 930 enzymatic functions, right? So magnesium itself being that powerful, right? That we drain it continuously, and we drain it because we use it, right? Are you stressed? Do you have stress at work, right? Do you have stress because you didn't sleep very well? Did you sleep very well last night? Are you anxious today? Do you have high blood pressure? Do you have high blood insulin? Do you have high blood sugar? I mean, do you have high insulin? Are you going through some sort of traumatic time during this period? These are type of questions your doctor should ask you. Oh, is this happening? If this will happen, let's give you magnesium, because you need to be on a calm state, triggering your more parasympathetic nervous system. Because if your sympathetic nervous system is always on hinge, it's always working, guess what's happening? Your magnesium is always draining, but you're not putting magnesium in your system as fast as you're losing it, right? So that's why supplementation of magnesium is vital. And we don't do this as a society. Some people start to do this more, right? It's become more popular on TikTok. It's been more popular on Instagram and everything. But the talk of adding magnesium into your system is not that much, right? And a lot of these magnesium deficiencies actually cause they're actually caused because of the high carb diet as Americans have. You don't want to have too much carbs in your system because you increase blood sugar, and the more blood sugar you increase, the more you drain and decrease your magnesium, and then you become magnesium deficient. Once you enter that world of magnesium deficiency, lots happen, right? Your um, symptoms of pain and anxiety and blood pressure increase more than in like 10 folds, right? The problems that you have when you consume like alcohol or carbohydrate become even way worse and way more predominant than regularly when your magnesium levels were actually, in a sense, good, right? Adequate. Because most people don't have even good magnesium levels. So what can we do? There's about 23 different forms of magnesium, well, bonded forms of magnesium that you can consume. The ones I would say stay away from is magnesium oxide and magnesium citrate. Stay away from those, right? Unless if you have a lot of loose, you're constipated and you need to increase your loose stool. You need to just defecate, increase, take a bottle, maybe half a bottle of magnesium citrate. That's important. That can help. But in general scheme of things, you should increase magnesium malate, magnesium glycinate, L-threonate. There is countless amount of forms that you can take, right? These forms are important. The malate form is the one I take, and this one is specifically better for athletes because it helps for muscle recovery. It helps for just like soreness and all that stuff. And you're weightlifting, you're moving around all the time, when you're golfing or something like that. It takes a toll on your muscles and your body, right? So that itself is important. The studies have shown that magnesium can really, really bring down blood pressure by like like it's a drug, right? No drug can actually do what magnesium can do when it comes to blood pressure. Magnesium, because most people who have high blood pressure have low magnesium, right? They tend to just are born with low magnesium. So that's the thing. Increase it. But you're like, how do I supplement it? Do I just take the regular dose of the RDA, which is 400 milligrams? Honestly, no. What the root cause protocol, right, states 5 milligrams per body weight. So for me, I take around 800 milligrams a day on a good day where I feel decent, where I feel normal, and I feel good, I had a good sleep. But the days I don't sleep very well, I take around 1,000 milligrams. And the problem is, you do not have to worry about magnesium like stopping your heart, because the thing is, it flushes out of your system. And the fact that I know I use that magnesium a lot because I tend to be more of a stressed person. I have ADHD, so my magnesium itself is always being used in some sense because I tend to get stressed fast. But when I take more magnesium, I take my magnesium constantly, my stress is always low. which is important. It keeps me in a calm state. I know how to react to things better. I'm more vigilant with my days and what I have to do. But it's important to to understand 5 milligrams per body weight will help people. So if you're a 200-pound man, you know that you could just do the conversion. Bam, you have your answer. So it's important to know what to do for your body because every single person is not the same. But you have to consult with your doctor because I'm not a doctor. But there's a lot of research out there and that have been shown that magnesium does help create a better life. And it's not rocket science. It's really not. So this is the most important thing you could do for your life in a sense. And then there's foundational things that you can bring into your life to make your life, dramatically better, right? And there's pillars basically, right? You have sleep. Sleep is vital. As a college student, we don't get as much sleep as we want to, right? Because you want to go out on the Friday nights, you need to study till like 12. You're doing so much, right? Your schedule is based on your schedule, other friends, all that stuff. So you have to like work around it. So you're not sleeping the full 8 hours, or if you are, you're still going to bed towards like 2 o'clock in the night. So you're not having that adequate, deep, sound sleep, right? So that's important. Sleep is important. Um, Another thing is well-being, in a sense, right? Well-being with your friends, your family, your just people, your environment itself. Most people don't have a good environment, and that's why I put number two. It's like, like that's vital, right? Apart from like it's so vital because you can have everything perfect. You can have everything perfect, but if your well-being, your relationships are terrible. You don't communicate with people. You don't enjoy your life itself. All these doing all these stuff like with the diets, with magnesium, to do all this sleeping, it's not going to pay off because most people don't feel good. So going out, making friends, having a good community, having a good family around you is important. And you can see in those countries where people live very long, it's you can see one of the most direct correlation is they have a great community. You don't Let's say you don't even have a family, you just need a good community. It could be one friend, because how Robin Williams said, "It's I'd rather have one good friend than 100 bad ones," right? Because those 100 bad ones would make you feel alone, and who wants to be alone? Who wants to feel alone itself? So that's important. And another great thing is diet, right? I always believe in a low carb diet. Low carb diet, because as humans, we don't need that much carbohydrates. We work well with high protein, high fats. Carbohydrates are for energy, right? And we eat too much carbs and spend little amount of energy as a society, right? I'm not against carbs, but the thing is, if you were to go want to run a marathon, I would say, okay, eat as much carbs as you can, but you're not gonna eat that much carbs before you run a marathon. Why? Because you'll feel sluggish. It's because the blood sugar spike. So there's a point of what's it called, carbohydrates to consume. There's a you know you can eat a lot of fats, right? Saturated fat, unsaturated fats, right? The only fats I would tell most people to stay off of is polyunsaturated fats, which is multiple chain of unsaturated, which you need to stay away from. It's not good for you. It causes problems. They're rancid. Those are like the canola oil, the soybean oil. These are the rapeseed oil. They should not put in your body, in your system whatsoever. And then another great thing to consume is just protein. Protein, especially females. Females need more protein than generally spoken. Like guys are always there's this like thing like, oh, let's eat guys protein, but females themselves need protein, especially. And females do not consume as much protein as they should. And these all like low fat diet fads and stuff, get rid of it. It's not good for the hormones for anybody. Wherever you identify as, you should never be on a low fat diet. This would hijack your hormones and just render you dead, basically. You do not want that. You need a high fat diet. Low fat is bad, high fat good. As simple as that. So let's stay in that realm. You have your sleep, you have your well-being generally with people, and then you have diet. And then there's other stuff like hydration, feeling good, right? And then exercise. Exercise is so important. Exercise. the expenditure of energy it's vital, because that expenditure of energy has benefits for your brain, for your heart, and for your well-being. And all those things you want to take care of, because without that, life is not as good. You need to move. Movement is important. So that's it, and that concludes this episode. Thank you for joining me.